Hi, this is the Black Bear Prepper, and today we're going to be talking about scout knives. Knives I'd recommend for you to be purchasing for your scouts or for your everyday carry. A couple of these I carry on a regular basis because they're so useful. I'm a big fan of Swiss Army knives. Now when I say Swiss Army knives, there's two different versions out there. There's the Wanger, which is basically the shield in a square. So you'll actually see a triangle with a square, still red-handled, still exactly the same, not the same knife. They're junk. Do not buy them. We want to look for the knives that are written on the biggest blade, Victorinox, Switzerland, okay? That is really important, okay? Now I want to show you the top 5 knives that I recommend, but I really want to talk about the top 4. Okay, because the one I recommend on the next side up is kind of, I think, overkill for what you need, and it really isn't going to work for what you want. The first one, the all-time favorite, people will call it the red knife. These come in a bunch of different colors. This is the Swiss Army Tinker. This is probably my favorite for your 11-year-old scouts. Anybody that's going to be starting out in scouting, maybe it's going to be their first knife. They run about $20 to $30, mattering where you're going to purchase them. They have basically everything you need for the basic scout. You're going to have a big blade, a whittling blade, a straight blade screwdriver with a hook on it to do bottle cap removal. You have a really great can opener, which is always a great thing to have laying around, a small screwdriver, and all with the eyelet for sewing, your Phillips screwdriver, a pair of tweezers, which I really like these tweezers. They point really well. I pulled out a sliver the other day with these. They work very well for that. You know, all around great knife, and you have a toothpick on the other side. So if you're out in the woods, definitely something I'd recommend. You know, really small. The other thing I really like about this knife is how thin it is. In your pocket, it disappears. It's not like some of these big giant knives, you know, that are going to be like the Champ, which is this friggin' big, and you don't need all that stuff, you know, out there. This allows you to do some pack repair, maybe a stove repair, some basic stuff. From there, probably the knife I'd recommend the most, okay? And this knife is basically the exact same knife, almost identical, same knife. Remember, we're looking for the Victorinox symbol on this knife here. This is called the Hiker. Definitely a knife I'd recommend looking for, okay? The big difference, same knife everywhere else, same components, except it comes with the saw. This is great for building shelters, for doing any kind of bow drill work. Anything like that is really nice to have that big saw. And the saw is amazingly sharp. It stays sharp forever. I've literally cut bumpers off cars during car accidents with this saw. Amazing saw. You know, really, really like that. The one I carry every day, okay? This is my backup knife to my basic folder that I carry in my pocket. The only real difference between the two knives we're talking about right now is this one comes with a pair of scissors instead of the saw. This is called the Super Tinker. You're going to spend anywhere on both these guys, anywhere from about 38 to 45 bucks on each one of these, mattering where you purchase them, okay? Very similar knives. I love this knife. I love the steel that's on these knives. And some people complain about them. If you can sharpen them, they're very, very sharp. They stay sharp forever. They cut really well. These little blades that are on them are awesome for doing any kind of like bushcraft type work. So if you're sitting there making spoons, you're carving stuff out, you're able to do really minute work. You've got a backup blade if you're going to do any skinning or fish work. Works really well for that kind of a situation. The other thing that's different on this particular knife, and it doesn't come on all of them, if you've got an older version, it doesn't matter, and I don't think it's a necessity to go out there and get a new one just for the hook. But it comes with what they call a parcel hook. Now, parcel, meaning that if in certain countries they still tie packages up with tape and string to hold onto the package. This is a parcel hook. This is just set there and designed to put your parcel with the hook and the knot on your box to pick it up in the center so you don't have to hold your fingers through the string. In this country, I feel it's almost useless. I have used it for certain things like gathering kindling, where I've got a bunch of little kindling, I can wrap it up with a piece of paracord and I put it through there. It's nice if you're trying to keep your hands and clothes from getting dirty. Not a necessity by any means of the word. So the older one works just fine. So if you do have the older one, not anything to worry about, okay? So this is one I would probably recommend for your everyday carry because it doesn't have the saw, but it has the scissors. And I like that. Still, I'm still in this camp right here. Either the hiker or the regular tinker. I don't like the miniature tinker because they get rid of a couple tools to do it. I like just the regular tinker, the hiker. Probably if you wanted the all-around best knife, these are a little harder to come by. Same, this particular one I've had for 20 plus years. I gave this one to my son. Great knives. This one is called the Field Master. The Field Master is a great knife because it comes with everything that you see here all in one knife. Basically the same, just a little thicker than your Super Tinker and your hiker, but you're going to get two things here. You're going to get the saw, which is what makes it wider, and the scissors together. Is the scissors a necessity? No. I do not think the scissors are a necessity in the woods. Do they help? Yeah, if you're sewing things, if you're cutting things up, they do help a lot. I do use them all the time, which is why I carry it on my everyday carry. Now I chose, when I did my everyday carry, I'm not going to be, what am I most likely going to be doing? Cutting a string off my, a string that's pulled off a pair of socks or something like that. So I use the scissors on my everyday carry. The saw is way better and way more useful in the woods. So to me, still again, even though this has kind of everything on here, and it still comes, you want to make sure you're getting one. The only difference between the old ones and the new ones is you have the hole in the awl for sewing. And it is a nice feature if you're trying to sew with it. You can drill holes in wood and all kinds of things with these, but the hole is really nice there. Like I said, this knife has been with me and I've carried it for years and years and years until I passed it down to my son. Okay, definitely a nice feature to have, but not a necessity. I really recommend, again, these two, the hiker and the tinker. Okay, the tinker you're going to find everywhere. You'll hear it called the red knife, which is done because it comes in blue, black, and red. And probably other colors of clear and all kinds of other things. But I really do like this knife because it's very, very small. And for a small person with small pockets, it really works well. For a little extra room, the saw is an amazing feature if you can come by one. The hiker is a really popular knife. Like I said, 35 to 40 bucks, somewhere in that range. You're definitely going to see. There's one other knife that I do not have on the table here, which is called the Swiss Soldier knife. That is basically their style of knives, which really gets more into the size of a regular folder knife, which is a little bigger. You're going to have a one-handed opening on most of them. I think at that point, carry two. One is none and two is one. I really want people to embrace that philosophy, but I've used these knives for years. I really like carrying a folder, and I carry every day, in my everyday carry, my EDC, I carry one of these guys. So I kind of have the gamut of everything I need. One other thing I recommend you guys do, there's a couple different companies that make these. For your smaller scouts, these work great for doing some basic sharpening. This one happens to be made by Smith. There's a bunch of different versions of this out there. These are about $3, okay? Really a nice thing. They have a carbon sharpener on top to really take off steel, so if they've dropped it on the ground and they want to just sharpen it up enough to get it home, that will kind of clear out those really rough spots. And then a ceramic sharpener to keep sharpening it. I mean, literally, you're going to sit there with your, if you've got a wicked, notch or anything like that, you're going to go ahead and pull it through about 5 to 10 times, making sure you've kind of cleaned out all the bad spots. You're still going to have your dents, and then run it through your ceramic side 10 times. Now, if you're using it every day, run it through your ceramic side 10 times, and you're going to keep that knife nice and sharp. $3, an easy thing to carry with you, very safe for the scouts to use, and they're not having to worry about, how to sharpen. One other thing I want to talk about today a little bit is sharpening in general. Keeping your knife sharp is way easier than trying to fix them afterwards, or what we call reprofiling after you've destroyed a knife. Now I'm going to use my wallet here because I forgot to bring out my sharpener here, my basic sharpener. I want to teach you guys a principle. This is 90 degrees, 45 is half of 90 degrees, and 22.5 degrees is where we want to sharpen knives at for our scouts. So we want to give them the principles that they can remember. It's kind of back to the rules of 3. 90 degrees, 45 degrees, 22.5 is where we want them to sharpen at. So when we want them to cut, we always want them to swoosh into the knife, not away from the blade. That causes hairs to build up where the knife becomes it's not as sharp. And we're coming in, we're coming in, we're coming in, anything they do. Now they can sharpen these knives on a, ceramic mug. They can do all kinds of things. But what I like about these guys is it holds it at that 22.5 degree angle all the time. So it really is a nice feature for them to have. They have little rubber stoppers on there. It keeps their hands out of the way, protects them from getting cut when they're first starting to do this, versus having their knives where they're trying to hold it up and they're trying to do this with it and trying to do this. But, all around. On top of that, it's also sharpening on both sides of the knife at the same time. So, something really to think about. This is what I recommend you guys carry. I really am against getting into some of the cheaper knives out there. They're junk. The most dangerous thing out there is a dull knife. They come all dull. These guys come very, very sharp right off the bat. They have amazing steel on them. And you'll have people compare, I'll get a million people to say, oh, the steel's horrible on them. The steel's very good, okay, comparatively. They're a stainless steel blade. I've left them in my pocket and washed them through the wash. Your kids are going to do that. They're going to leave them in their packs when they're soaking wet. They're going to abuse these knives. I'll tell you right now, these will hold up to it. They're going to take that abuse. And they're going to do a very good job. Definitely something you're going to have to spend some money on. 30 to 50 bucks. Do not buy the big giant ones and do not buy the little itty bitty ones. This is where I kind of tell people to stay. That middle range of knives, what they call their everyday use knives, really a good idea to kind of keep around. So if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comment box down the bottom. Like I said, these are not just for scouts. I carry one of these every single day. I carry the Tinker, as I call my church knife, and I carry, the Super Tinker for my everyday carry, my DC. So this is not something that is just for that, but they are very good for scouting. I happen to do a lot of scouting, so I like to kind of, always kind of concentrate there. But as in most things, scouting teaches you how to live. So if you're living with a knife, you carry a knife, you will use a knife. The people that say they don't need a knife, don't carry a knife. I'll tell you right now, the worst thing that ever happens to me is if I forget one of my knives at home. I usually always carry 2. All times of the day. So this is the Black Bear Prepper, and as always, have a great day.